It's been 2 months now since I started my carry trade experiment and it has continued to perform really well. The account is well in the green and the daily income continues to trickle in. The strategy is really simple and very low effort, and this is how it works. Whenever I hold a position overnight, my broker charges me something called a financing fee. This fee is a percentage and it varies depending on what I'm trading, whether it's forex or an index or a commodity. And I can see all of these fees on my broker's website. For example, this shows that if I was long on Euro USD and I held that trade overnight, then I would pay a financing fee of 3.42%. This is an annual figure, so I need to divide it by 365 and that gives me the daily amount. Most of the time the fee is negative and this means that I get charged this financing fee. But there are some situations where the fee is positive, which means that the broker actually pays me that financing fee. Typically though, these fees are tilted in the broker's favor. So even when it is positive, it's really small compared to the level of risk that I have to take on to actually earn this. But if I switch over to commodities, I can see that there are some that have really high financing fees. Natural gas is one that really stands out. If I was long on natural gas, I would be paying 39.5% in financing. On the flip side though, if I'm short, then I get paid 34.5%. In the long direction, most of these commodities are negative. However, Brent crude and West Texas both pay carry in the long direction. And that's how the strategy works. I find instruments that pay me a financing fee. I then go long or short depending on which direction pays out, and I just collect a daily income. Right now, I have a long position on Brent crude as well as multiple short positions on natural gas. This is quite a high risk strategy though, and what I'm showing in this video isn't trading advice, it's just a summary of my own results. These rates change a lot, and at the beginning of the month, natural gas was only paying 14.8% and West Texas Intermediate was paying 17.3%. And this was bringing in about 23-24 pence per day. That doesn't sound like a lot, but this is on a small account. In terms of percentage results, it adds up pretty quickly. I wanted to diversify and add a few other things that pay a high carry. So I had to look at currencies, and most of them don't pay a lot, but there is one currency that stands out, and that is the Turkish lira. Every cross involving the Turkish lira has a high financing rate, whether it's in the short direction or the long direction. I wanted to focus on long trades, so I had to look at the lira versus the Japanese yen. This paid a massive 29.75% at the time. The main issue was that this currency pair was in a massive multi-year downtrend. Going long was a huge risk, but considering the high financing rate, I thought it was worth a shot. I spent a while updating my spreadsheet to add in the Turkish versus the Japanese yen cross. I worked out the position size that I would need and the number of units that I would be able to buy. I went over to my broker to place the order and found out that it's not possible. Turns out that Oanda have actually suspended trading on the Turkish pairs. I knew that this would have been a risky trade anyway, but the fact that my broker doesn't even let me place the orders tells me that I should really stay away from this one. Unfortunately, there wasn't really anything else that paid a decent enough financing rate, so I stuck with my two existing positions. My daily income steadily continued for about 2 weeks, but then on the 13th of August, I noticed there was a drop in my overnight income. This already happened to me last month, so I knew what to expect. I was long on West Texas, which was paying 17.3% throughout the month. But then when I switch over to the 14th of August, that value dropped to 10.9. Brent crude, however, held strong at 13.8. Now I had to decide whether to ditch West Texas Intermediate and replace it with Brent crude because it pays a slightly higher carry. I calculated that Brent crude would earn an additional 3 pence per day. However, the transaction would cost me 15 pence, meaning that it would take me 5 days to break even. The last time this drop happened, the rates held steady for about 3 weeks, so I felt like it was worth the gamble. After that, not even a week went by and there was another change in daily income. But this time it was actually an increase. Natural gas had jumped from 14.8 up to 34.5%, which was a nice boost after the constantly dropping rates that I've been experiencing. Annoyingly, Brent, which I had just switched to, had dropped again. So now I had to decide again whether to switch back to WTI. But the difference between them now is down to just 2 pence a day. So it would have taken me about a week to break even. Considering how much these two had been changing at that time, I decided to just hold my position as it was and monitor the rates to see what happens. Well, that week has now passed and the rates didn't change, which means that on this occasion it was the wrong decision and I should have switched instruments, but that's that's hindsight. At the end of the month, I rebalance my position. This is to make sure that I don't risk too much on a single position, and it also maintains some kind of consistency in my daily carry. My calculator showed that for Brent, I needed 5.99 units, and I had 6. So that one was completely fine, and there was no changes needed. Natural gas, however, had changed in price quite a bit, so I needed to have 135 units to maintain my position size. I only had 124, so I went short an extra 11 units to bring me up to 135. Now at the end of the month, my current balance is £118.49. I started the month with £110.38, which gives me a gain of 7.45% in August alone and 18.5% overall for the 2 months. That's just my realized profit. My overall balance, including the open positions, is £141.63, but I have gotten quite lucky in that the positions have moved in my favor. This can change very quickly if they turn around and go against me, but that's just one of the risks of this strategy. Either way, this has been a really interesting one to trade, and it's working out really well so far. I'm going to continue trading this and see how it works out in September. Make sure to subscribe if you want to follow along.